All right, Izzy, do you want to kick us off?
I believe the honor is all Rick's.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Rick.
Wait, the agenda had Mr. Redwood doing our intro, but as our imperious leader.
I'm looking. Maybe I just looked at the agenda on the email. That's our introduction.
Right. What's the?
But nonetheless, yeah, absolutely. So, for those of you who may not know, my name's Ezzy Redwood, and I have the distinct honor and pleasure of being a Kansas Citian for about 15 years. And throughout that time, one of the things that I've seen is that, Kansas City does some things really well. I think that we're, at the forefront of health technology. We're at the forefront of, security in a lot of ways in this new digital world. And there's and of course barbecue and jazz. I think those are things that everyone kind of knows that we are amazing in. I think one of the things that we still have a lot of work to do is how do we go about changing our thinking to align with the new world in which entrepreneurs, the small business owners, the startups are creating economic development and jobs. And so we have a little ways to go before we kind of switch to that mindset. And I view it as, our responsibility or at least my responsibility. I want to toss everyone else in there to help change that mindset. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. And as partners in arms, none of the progress we have done would not have been able to be accomplished without everyone that's here on this panel. And so why don't we go through and just have everyone say a little bit about who they are and what they do, and then we'll launch into kind of the efforts we've done thus far and what work is still left to do, and we'll cover some key points that we think the community should know. So, Rick, do you want to kick off with who you are in case someone out there doesn't know?
Great, thank you, Ezzy. Rick Usher, former Assistant City Manager for Small Business and Entrepreneurship with the City of Kansas City, Missouri. I'm now in private practice at a thing I call the Usher Garage. It's a homage to my great-grandfather who actually founded the Usher Garage in Plainville, Connecticut. So. And a tip to the hat of entrepreneurs that start great things in their garages. I'm happy to be part of this group. As a lot of you may know, when I was at the city, I was pushing the community to develop a public policy voice, to see the startup community as a constituency to elected officials across the board, and really get active in attending budget hearings. And this group that Ezzy and Susana and some others have led has been successful in doing that. So, and I'm going to continue to be a part of that. One thing I'm hoping to make clear is that I'm no longer constrained by geopolitical boundaries, and I can speak a little more freely about where we should be headed as far as economic development policy and actually supporting locally owned small businesses, entrepreneurial growth, and some of the things we'll outline in this session. So thank you.
Great. Susana, you're muted.
I'm Susana Bruhn. I'm been with ESS almost since the early stages. And I'm also the founder of Gilded, which is a nonprofit in art and business. And I'm a freelance web designer, as well as an artist. And I've been in Kansas City for the last 25 years. I'm originally from Iowa, definitely Midwest grown, and glad to be here.
All right, Carmen.
Oh, Okay, Carmen Dehart, thank you so much, Ezzy and Rick and Susana for inviting me to join the panel today. I'm with the UMKC Innovation Center Entrepreneurial Education Programs, where we have a team of business consultants and trainers who deliver one-on-one business coaching at no cost that inspires entrepreneurship and encourages business growth from startup to scale up. We also offer a lot of business training courses and work with a lot of business partners and the entrepreneur support organizations in the local area. Probably more importantly, or equally important, at least, I am also a member of the ESS. I'm a co-owner of a third-generation family-owned OEM manufacturing company in the Kansas City metro area, which I've been very proud to be a business owner all of my life. I think most of us that know, we grow up in it. It's part of our soul, is part of our breath. And so to be involved in an entrepreneurial-led economic development group is very exciting. So thank you for this opportunity to share on the panel and be with the group.
Awesome. Really great work you're doing over there as well. And so one of the things that we'd like to kick off doing is just giving a little bit of an overview of where have we been and where do we want to go. Of course, we're talking about entrepreneurship, so everything's in short order, but we have been doing some foundational work so that the next 12 months of activity can be as meaningful as possible, and we're really gearing up for that. But first, let's talk a little bit about where we were. So as a community, one of the things that has happened is we've been so focused on the work in past years that we have not, unfortunately, had the bandwidth or ability or desire in some cases to get involved at the city or county levels. I think that the funding reflected that. So one of the impetus for our group forming is as a coalition to promote knowledge, awareness, and advocate for the entrepreneur community, was the fact that we were severely underinvested. And so despite being around 60% of net new jobs creation, and that number goes as high as 71, 72%, depending on how you want to define it, we were looking at $150,000 in support and funding from the city. Now, of course, the city had a lot of avenues that had ancillary impacts on us, but in terms of direct support, I don't think anyone could argue that the city did not necessarily prioritize supporting entrepreneurs that were creating the jobs and supporting those who support those entrepreneurs creating jobs. And that was kind of where we came in. So over our first year, we ended up having conversations with elected officials, and fortunately being able to get that number up from about 150 to 400,000. We've since been able to get a little bit here and there as well, and continue to keep entrepreneurship and small business on people's minds. And I think that from an advocacy perspective, we've been effective in educating, and driving the conversation around the importance of small business and entrepreneurs. With that being said, we're in an interesting place now where we have a large allotment coming from, that has come and will come again next year from the federal government, affectionately known as the Biden bucks, which have the potential to be transformative for our region. And so as we look at what we need to be successful, one of the primary things that we realize is that, one, we have to be speaking with the same voice. And so we need to have, unity among our groups, among our types of entrepreneurs, and we need to kind of bring that power together in order to make sure that elected officials understand that we're serious and that we're mobilized, because those are very important factors when any elected official determines where they're going to allocate money. Because whenever they allocate money, someone's going to be mad. Right. So, if they're moving money here, it means that someone else does not get money. And they have, constituents, they have, supporting organizations, they have relationships. And there's a lot of people who feel like, they need funds for whatever, cause that they have, or, thing that needs to be fixed in the city, et cetera. And so, I think one of our first revelations was that we have to have that relationship with them. We have to demonstrate that we are unified and we are a voting body and we care. We're an actual constituent. And also that, create a clear list of priorities so that if they do want to support us and help us, that they can easily. And I think that in the past, we were frustrated because there wasn't more support, but we didn't think about the fact that they're not coming from entrepreneurial backgrounds. And in a lot of cases, they weren't entrepreneurs themselves. And so they don't know what we need, and they can't address something effectively that they don't understand. And so, that's kind of where we're at now is, within this next several weeks, we're creating a prospectus, a guide on if you want to help the entrepreneur community, here's how you go about doing that. And, and really lay out what that looks like. And then we'll be shopping that around and making sure that everyone gets bought into that vision. And so it's all told, it's a regional plan. It's, at least our goal is 35 million for it. And our, belief is that at that point, we'll have enough momentum to, really fulfill fulfill what's possible for us in terms of, being able to really support and really strongly develop, a generation of small business builders and entrepreneurs. So that's where we're on now. And anyone who has people we should talk to, has entrepreneur support organizations that might not already be in the community, or just organizations of, people who are building those small businesses, or medium or large businesses for that fact, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you and work together, because a rising tide lifts all ships. So with that being said, I've covered all the boring stuff. So now I can pass over to Rick to talk about some more exciting things that are going on in the community and how, we can develop.
Okay, hey, so can you share the next slide, Susana? I think that might be where show me the money. Yeah, I think we covered some of this in the conversation. I think that to Ezzy's point of talking to elected officials about the benefits of supporting entrepreneurship, it's extremely significant. And really what we have in the startup community is an investment and not an expense. And I've been trying to make that point, when I was at City Hall, inside the building and outside the building, that the dollars we put into entrepreneur support organizations come back to the city, to the EDC, to other funders in the form, not to other funders, but to the city, to local government, in the form of economic activity taxes. And when you look at traditional economic development models, incentive models, it's economic activity taxes that are always held up as the payback really for that investment in, say a new office building downtown, incentives that might be given. So when you look at programs we've had in the past, the Urban Business Growth Initiative partnership with KC SourceLink, the Launch KC initiatives at the EDC, Jim Malley and some others in that organization have done calculations showing there is at least a 4-to-1 return on economic activity taxes back to the city on investments in those programs. So, and a lot of times, especially if you get a program rolling for several years, Carmen, I think we're at like year 8 of UBGI. Is that right? So you get a program like that rolling, and it really develops a pipeline that keeps this engine churning out new companies, new employees, growth of companies, and that follow-on investment. So there's a number of metrics that are applicable, I think, really regardless of the program you're running. If you have an entrepreneur support organization for emerging, just entry-level entrepreneurs or higher level entrepreneurs, that ROI in these programs is really consistent. So the other point that I'm making is that we really want to use this conversation to try to disrupt these ongoing, really, in my view, developer-led initiatives to fund real estate development, really, rather than business or jobs growth through these incentive programs. And so when you look at the jobs report that just came out, I think Carmen will give us more detail on this in a bit, but we've been able to show through the reporting done at KC SourceLink that these small businesses, new companies, first-time employers, fewer than 20 employees are creating, like what I've been saying, Amazon HQ2 number of jobs every 3.5 years. And that's without paying a lot of attention to that. When you look at, what did you calculate the city's investment in entrepreneurship was, Ezzy, like 0.01% of the budget?
It was a thousandth of 1%.
Right.
So it got to the point, it was too many zeros. So we just had to say 1,000.
So when you look at, and I'm picking on Kansas City, Missouri a bit here, but Jackson County, Platte County, Clay County, Wyandotte County, Kansas, Johnson County, Kansas, there's a need really regionally to recognize entrepreneur-led economic development as a viable alternative to what really is a race to the bottom in the economic development border war that's been occurring in Kansas City for decades. I think there's a lot of poster child cases that you can cite, but I think an easy one to look at was AMC headquarters, used to be in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. They received, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 million of incentives from Kansas, and they moved across the state line, basically moved those jobs maybe 10 miles and decreased the tax base of both jurisdictions. And the benefit really was to probably the CEO, who reduced their commute to work by that relocation. And so what entrepreneur-led economic development really does regionally is focus on Kansas City as back to the Chamber of Commerce's raising the flag a few years ago, most entrepreneurial city in America. That flag's been raised. This group has really been carrying that flag, and we need to grow that group. So I went over the economic activity taxes. They're also, just looking for venues to engage with local government. Mid-America Regional Council has a comprehensive economic development strategy. When you read through that, and I'll put a link to it in the chat here in a bit, but it has a really great focus on entrepreneurial activity or initiatives that could be supported. But I don't know that there's really a voice behind that that's speaking at all of these local jurisdictions that could be putting something into entrepreneurial support that could be measured in their communities. And then at the City of Kansas City, Missouri, Assistant City Manager Carrie Tyndall is leading an effort right now to update and revise the Advanced KC Economic Development Strategy. In fact, I just posted a screenshot on Twitter and a screenshot on LinkedIn, and she texted me. So she is looking to plan an entrepreneur-focused town hall before the end of the year. So, stay in touch with us here, and we can keep you up to date on it's like when that event might happen, but taking advantage of these opportunities, it's worth it to, not only you as an individual, but it's supporting the full entrepreneur community. So that's kind of what I have there, and maybe we might throw this in at the end, but emailing this group, we can keep you as part of this group.
All right, and so we will pass it off to Carmen now. And one of the important things I think Rick kind of hinted at is the fact that without having a presence within like our regional local governments, we do not get any of the we don't get the same support that we would if we do. And so I think that's one of the
If you're not at the table,
pay
you're on the
into the
menu.
tax base, but we don't necessarily get anything back out of it. Sometimes those taxes can be fairly significant because the tax code wasn't designed for small businesses, particularly, and so they can be at times burdensome. And so you're paying all that in, but without that, awareness and advocacy, you don't necessarily get that same support back. So Carmen, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what entrepreneurs are doing as far as jobs in the city, and what you're working on this?
Sure, I would love to, Ezzy. Thank you. So for our discussion this morning and on behalf of KC SourceLink program, I'll share some of the highlights of the We Create KC report. We Create KC is a series of economic ecosystem reports assembled by KC SourceLink to talk about the Kansas City entrepreneurship. Through our jobs, capital, and corporate engagement, we are showing how together universities, investors, entrepreneurs, service providers, and community leaders are shaping a stronger, brighter, more inclusive future for Kansas City. These reports are also a call to action for the entire Kansas City metro community to step up, reach out, and help advance entrepreneurship and innovation in our region. Because the depth of an entrepreneur's network is a key indicator of business success, as we've already discussed this morning. That is where most business owners get introductions to mentors, customers, investors, and of course, the feedback and support that we all need to grow and scale. So basically, we are better when we are connected. A few highlights from the We Create KC report include data that you see there. In 2020, first-time employers with fewer than 20 employees created over 16,000 new jobs in the Kansas City area. This creating an average of 15,193 jobs each year from 2016 to 2020. First-time employers during the same period created 72,583 jobs in 2020. These employers account for 59.7% of all new jobs in the Kansas City metro, and about 6.8% of the total employment. The tech sector, new job wages in the metro area start out at about twice the average wage for all new jobs, making that sector a key focus for job growth. In Kansas City, new tech sector firms created 948 jobs in 2020, and averaged 932 new jobs from 2016 to 2020. Using the hiring of the first employee as a proxy for startup, data reveals there were 6,283 startup firms in the Kansas City area in 2020. And for the first time since tracking this data in 2016, the startup average wage exceeded the Kansas City metro annual wage. In 2020, and we can all just say right now, 2020 was an exceptionally difficult and challenging year for entrepreneurs and small businesses from tech to mom and pop, to Main Street, to scale. So these numbers are, I think we have to take pause and truly appreciate knowing the economic disaster that occurred in 2020. But in 2020, the average wage paid by new entrepreneurial firms was $48,686, compared with the average metro wage of $47,641. By year 5, the wages paid by startups is targeted to increase to about $52,000 per year. So we're making progress. Kansas City is moving the needle for entrepreneurship, but we still have work to do. And much of this will be part of our discussion today. We need to invite more entrepreneurs from underestimated communities into the hope of entrepreneurship, build bridges between startups and corporations, fully develop a capital continuum, recruit talent, move ideas to market, and continue to tell the story of Kansas City entrepreneurship. If you have more questions or comments about the We Create KC report, please contact info@kcsourcelink.com. Our next speaker, Susana Bruhn, will continue our discussion.
Great, thank you. And I'm with Gilded, which is we help businesses, artists grow their businesses. We're a lot like 1 Million Cups. Often when we say Kansas City, we mean Kansas City Metro. Gilded, like 1 Million Cups, and other organizations part of the entrepreneur system, support system. We've reached people in Atchison. We bring in people from Atchison and St. Joseph and Lawrence. So our reach is beyond the 5 counties for many of our support organizations for entrepreneurs, because the resources aren't that plentiful. And so part of our organization is to make these resources for entrepreneurs more plentiful so they can grow their business and bring those tax dollars into your counties and into your cities. So just a little bit of I'm going to give you micro views. By building entrepreneurism, you will actually build diversity within your business sector. Women and minorities are coming to entrepreneurism more and more. There's less of a class ceiling in entrepreneurism, and that's why you're seeing that growth from these 2 minority sectors within the business realm. So 40% of businesses are owned by women. 64% of new women-owned businesses are started by women of color last year, and private tech companies lead by women achieve 35% more ROI. So you give women the chance, they will soar, and they will take others with them and make them soar as well. Minorities, from 2014 to 2016, the minority-owned employer businesses rose 11%, while the white man business rose 1%. So that just gives you an indication of how many minorities are entering the business realm. Still, businesses are dominated by white males, but that minority sector is growing. It's over 20% right now. And of course, you're going to see that grow significantly within the next 10 years. Minority and women-owned businesses added jobs during the 2007-2012 Great Recession recovery. And while the white men-owned businesses lost jobs, the same trend is predicted for the COVID-19 recovery. Again, these are smaller businesses than that women and minorities are running, but they are more stable businesses. They won't unemploy your citizens. They will provide your citizens good, steady jobs. And so we encourage you to not only look at building entrepreneurism, but also build in your minority and women-owned businesses. We have seen Kansas City Commerce do that, the economic business development do that with a tech group towards African Americans. Kansas City actually isn't high in their employment of having African-American businesses owned. So that's one area we are looking to strive in. St. Louis itself is not very high either. And that's, so it really needs to be a statewide effort as well. Okay, and I will quickly move on to our next slide so we can get to Q&A and wrap up by Rick before Q&A. So just to give you a focus, the arts has been hit the hardest by COVID in Kansas City, and will also have the longest recovery according to Casey Rise. So I encourage you to invest in the arts. It's known to attract these high-paying tech jobs and such. Tech people want to move into creative areas, and the arts usually are the ones who start these creative areas, being the Crossroads, Soho, Austin definitely is a very creative city, both in technology and the arts. So these are some numbers that show how the arts give back to the economy, and also keep tourists within or keep citizens within their sector. And Kansas City definitely is known in the Midwest as a creator of arts, but we're seeing other cities surrounding us, Gladstone, Liberty, and especially Independence is building a whole arts district. They're even making homes for artists as part of that district. So we definitely see how an investment in the arts is an investment in attracting great businesses and citizens. All right. At the end, you'll have Rick's email address to contact any of us, as well as the email address that Carmen just gave you, and we encourage you to reach out to us. We're looking to grow our entrepreneurism within the metro area and beyond, if possible, if need be.
And as we transition back to Rick to close us out and Q&A, one of the things that's really interesting is, as a region, we have underinvested in both entrepreneurism and culturepreneurs, like Susana, just mentioned, and that's one of the primary contributing factors to our falling GDP. So a lot of people haven't, drawn attention to the fact that we, as a region, used to be a leader in jobs creation, economic development, and had one of the fastest rising GDPs of sister cities. And now we're trending towards being at the bottom of that list of GDPs. Our GDP has fallen, and our GDP the lowering of our GDP has only accelerated as we failed to keep up with investments that other cities are making in their entrepreneurs, small business, artists, culture creator communities that bring in both additional travel as well as additional tax revenues and jobs. So Rick, do you want to take us on?
Yeah, thank you, Ezzy. Oh, Susana, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we need to quickly move on to Q&A. So
yeah, okay. Thanks for that summary. I think that to that point of the opportunity we have in Kansas City, I mentioned the Most Entrepreneurial City in America initiative. There's also, we've got to look at where we've come from too. In 2015, Kansas City was named as a top 5 emerging global entrepreneur ecosystem. I got a great trip to Milan, Italy out of that. We went to Global Entrepreneurship Congress to make our presentation. And, we need to continue to build on that. And that response for that initiative really had a lot of input from the community. So I'll share a link to that so you can see like what was written up and what was contributed by folks in the startup community. And kind of that being said, it's Global Entrepreneurship Week. So we're not in person. So if everybody wants to share, say, LinkedIn profile in chat, we can connect. Follow us on Twitter. I've been kind of tweeting along here at RUKCMO. And then Susana mentioned my email address, rick@ushergarage.com. If you want to get on our mailing list, join our monthly conversations. And we're really working on some big information now toward further entrepreneur support across the region. So yeah, let's get to Q&A. I want to hear, we got some economic development folks in the room right now. And I've also noticed, the level of participation, so thank you for everyone who's signed on, and appreciate any comments we can have now. Some stuff coming up in chat here. Jeff Wielden says, do you know about KC Digital Drive? Yes, I think we do. Aaron Deacon launched KC Digital Drive back in 2012, and shortly after the Google Fiber announcement, developed a playbook, and yeah, his organization is doing a lot. Was there something you wanted to say about that, Jeff? Do you want to? You can join the conversation.
And they have been a part of our monthly.
Yeah, Aaron is in that group. That's true.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I just was the person who gave the last presentation yesterday for KC Digital Drive. So I thought I saw your name in the list. So I was like, wait, was he there or not?
I didn't attend the session yesterday, no, but
okay.
I worked closely with Aaron. We're also on the involved in the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of work with Aaron over the years.
Yeah, I met him a couple times. He's the other, I work with, my contact is Jim, not Aaron. I've had very little contact with Aaron, but
Okay.
yeah. On my project for that, I'm about to be contracted with the Central Missouri University's like Innovation Center. Have you met Joseph Mullins?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, what's your project? I'm not familiar with your project.
It's a complex one, but it's like AR navigation for hospitals. Now it's being changed to be for the blind and visually impaired. And then the other part of the project was the virtual museum, the American Jazz Museum.
Okay, cool.
And in response to COVID, that to create a digital double of the museum while they're at least partially shut down. That was to create a virtual replacement for museums or AR navigation.
Okay.
And
That's great.
who was the person you mentioned?
Aaron
Joseph.
Deacon? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Joseph Mullins. I can get his email on.
This is Carmen. That's great to hear, Jeff. I've worked with Joe for many years in the innovation system as well as the Missouri SBDC system. And there's a lot of good work that's being done out of his shop. Also with the digital drive case, we're working with them on the Casey Comeback Initiative that is for COVID tech solutions. And is that the program that you're also tapping into with Digital Drive?
I don't think so. Can you repeat that? It's quite a mouthful.
If it's not, I'll absolutely reach out to you and see if we can't get you connected to some of those initiatives that are being done for COVID solutions in the tech space.
Okay. Yeah, I started in the KC Digital Drive Heartland AR VR challenge, and like all the other teams had multiple people on it. It was just me on my team. And then it like, I failed to get any funding for my project or help. And then after the hackathon, he mentioned that he just wanted to do AR wayfinding. It's like, well, if I'm going to be using Vuforia, I might as well also make that demonstration for them. And then like everything kind of rolled into one. It turns into like a wanting to make a walking, talking, augmented reality tour guide for museums. And the dream is to have a single phone app that would work with every single museum in the Kansas City area.
Mhm.
At the bare minimum, before that is high quality headphones, because a lot of museums like that's a cost they don't have. So the spatial tracking from area targets. So the building is scanned, and then any place where they would want music everywhere, and then when they come up to an exhibit, getting the information read out to them at the bare minimum. Maybe could be somebody who has personal experience with whatever they exhibit. It's could have been their property or whatever that it's been given. And they could actually hear that, and the music will duck underneath it and all that kind of stuff. So high quality headphones is what the base product that I'm trying to create is, up into a walking, talking simulacrum of a former president, that's been detached and reconnected, disconnected all this time. What it came down to, I didn't have the funds just to be able to buy an iPad Pro 12 with the LiDAR camera. So now I'm working with, likely will be working with students on it from the Innovation Center.
Do we have, and why don't we move on to some other questions? And Jim, I just invited you to our ESS meeting next week, and I'll put that in the chat of what it is and how to connect by Zoom. So do we have any other questions?
Well, I saw Dan Smith was with us a minute ago, but Porterhouse, the work they're doing there is pretty amazing, and they've recently received some funding to open another location on 31st Street. So it'd be kind of cool to hear what he's up to. But I don't know who else. Anyone else have some questions there? I see Jody Krantz, Independence EDC. Thanks for joining us.
Joel Travis
a little bit about your work.
Yeah, Joel Travis has a question.
I'll do a quick question and just a quick shout out, I guess. I'm based in Boston, and then my in-laws are more in the KC area. So COVID's allowed us to kind of come back here and work remotely. And I'm in the tech sector, data scientist working with a corporation back in Boston. So I guess it's been awesome to see this. I saw this on the road, and I've been able to tune in from a little sign. So I'm very removed from the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in KC, and glad that this exists to allow a connection. So I guess I would, two questions. Have you seen other kind of COVID transplants that have kind of come into KC because of similar situations? And then are there any other, I think just connecting to this 1 week thing is an awesome on-road into this system, but any other kind of teasers into the uninitiated into this system, where to go? I think the answer is this week thing, but those are the two questions.
Yeah, well, thanks for your comment, and that's cool to hear that you're able to come to Kansas City on remote work. We've been really trying to push Kansas City as a remote worker destination with gigabit Google Fiber available pretty much everywhere in the community, and now 2 gigabit. We've got really some of the fastest internet in the country, and we've been trying for about 20 years to make downtown Kansas City, the rest of the Kansas City, attractive to folks in the tech sector to come here. So thank you for being here, and if you want to hang around, that's even cooler. And Susana can add you to our mailing list. You can. We're doing our meeting next week will be virtual. Other connections you might make, Startland News, if you found that.
Yeah, I haven't heard of them. That's great.
Yeah, so Startland News, and the Startland is the Startup Foundation. That is really, I'd say, your number one source for news of what's happening in the startup community in Kansas City. They have events and activities. And yeah, there's been a lot of work to make your connections in Kansas City super easy. I think I like to say, there's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. There's only 2 degrees of Kansas City, that you're just 1 or 2 introductions from meeting or speaking with the person who's going to help you move your idea forward.
Yeah, and I just put in e-networking, entrepreneur networking at 1 Million Cups every Wednesday from 9 to 10, Westport Plexpod, and they're also on Facebook Live.
Yeah, and on that remote work attraction, the Kansas City Area Development Council has been tracking that a bit. I don't know if we have like an actual number of COVID immigrants, but we have seen an influx of population. I did some research on this about 6 or 8 months ago and talked with a few realtors that have said that people moving to Kansas City are asking about, high-speed internet connectivity and houses or condominiums with rooms that can be separated. And it's kind of a challenge in some of the loft apartments we have downtown that they're open and you don't have maybe that environment to have two folks working from home uninterrupted. But yeah, there is, I think, quite a bit of immigration to Kansas City due to COVID. And we're hoping, again, to keep you here. The other cool thing is with the new KCI airport, actually, even prior to that, you're only 3 hours away from anywhere you want to get in the US. So it's a great location for remote work.
Yeah, I've seen the same. So we have some work on the West Coast, and you truly are 3 hours from any place in the US and KC, which Boston can't say the same thing. So very cool. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
There was a guy who gave a presentation yesterday at the KCDD thing, and he moved to Kansas City and started a animation academy.
That's cool.
Yeah, and the Westport Plexpod I mentioned is our locally owned co-working chain. So they have locations throughout the Kansas City metro area, and that's you can just co-work for a day, or you can co-work for a month, or you can co-work there for the year. Other questions? Why don't you tell, and I'll let Ezzy talk more on this, but we've also just started working. LISC has been part of our group. We're looking, working with them, possibly getting a larger reach beyond and making sure we're reaching out to all of the Kansas City Metro. We are also talking with Mark, and what are some of the other organizations we're going to be talking to, Ezzy, in order to make sure we have a far-reaching entrepreneur network?
Well, I think maybe I would say that it's more essential for those who are in the area to let us know who we should be talking to, just because I don't want to kind of say people before we finalize our relationship. But what I do say is that as a region, us working together regionally will have by far the biggest impact for everyone. And right now, what we see is there's a bit of I guess you would call it sectionalism, where people have a natural tendency to say, hey, these are our borders for the areas we have constituents in or work in. This is our territory, and we're only going to support things in that. And what ends up happening is, yes, if you take that approach, that's great for those dollars that come from them and they stay there. But what you also don't, what we're also seeing is that, there's other initiatives and other peoples who, have the potential to raise up your, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and really create that economic development, additional, layer of economic development within, some of the additional areas there. And so they, a lot of times don't have the bandwidth or the focus to extend a lot of their very meaningful services to some of these other areas. And so that ends up helping, taking a regional approach ends up helping those entrepreneurs and small businesses in every area, because those organizations that are adding the value, if they have that bandwidth, then and the capacity, through the capacity building efforts that we're working on, they can, invite those entrepreneurs in and give them world-class expertise. I know that there have been people from, some may have seen the Dollar Beard Club and Dollar Shave Club guys who figured out how to create viral videos, they've been in Kansas City. But how many people knew that they were there, right? Because the organizations bringing them in didn't have the capacity to do the outreach and didn't know, who all they should be inviting to those. Same thing for Freakonomics. Same thing for, there's so many of these world-class thought leaders in how to build, grow, and scale businesses that have been in the city, but we haven't necessarily in previous times had the capacity as organizations to do the outreach to some of the other areas and loop in their entrepreneurs so that they gain those skills. So that's hopefully what we'll be solving in short order, but that's also why it's so important for us to have the entire region and its partners.
And we're actually 10 minutes past our time. So do we want to end? And I just put in Rick Usher's email address for any follow-up. Does that sound good? So we want to thank you. We want to thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoy the rest of your Global Entrepreneur Week. And we look forward to growing entrepreneurism along with you and others in Kansas City to make it a stellar community to be a part of, full of ideas, full of new energy. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.